My name's Ryan. I'm 34, and for the past 6 years, I've quietly funded my family's legacy while they treated me like I didn't belong in it. My family owns a chain of 4 hardware stores in Oregon. Nothing glamorous, just old school shops my grandfather started back in the 60s. It's always been the family business, but like most things in our family, that meant something very different depending on which son you were talking about. My older brother, Tyler, was the golden boy. Always was. Star quarterback, prom king, business school dropout. But mom and dad still brag about him like he invented electricity. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. Straight A's, computer science degree, full scholarship out of state, and eventually my own tech startup. But to them, I was the one who left. The one who got lucky with computers, while Tyler stayed and put in real work. Funny thing is, about a year and a half ago, I found out the real work Tyler was doing included letting the business slowly bleed money. He'd been mismanaging inventory, hiring his friends as part-time managers who never showed up, and refusing to invest in any upgrades. Their payroll was suffering, employees were quitting, and they'd already lost one location in Eugene due to unforeseen financial strain. That's when Dad came crawling to me, not for help, but for a loan. They didn't know I'd already been watching things from a distance. One of their former employees, a kid named Marco who'd interned with me a while back, sent me an email. Said he'd been let go after questioning the books, and he thought I deserved to know what was happening. So yeah, I knew. But when Dad asked for money, I didn't say no. I said, if I help, I want transparency. Full access. No announcements. He laughed and said, of course, son. This is still your family. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I've been quietly sending $9,300 every month to cover payroll directly from my own account. I told myself it was temporary, that they'd fix things, that maybe I'd finally earn a bit of respect. Silly, right? But when it's your family, hope sticks around longer than it should. And for 6 months, not one thank you. Not a word from Tyler. No update from Dad. Not even a happy birthday text when I turned 34. I didn't complain. I stayed quiet, watched the accounts, and listened as they told everyone the business was back on track thanks to some smart leadership changes. Then came the group text. I was in Seattle, mid-meeting, when I glanced down and saw it. From Dad. Since you're never around, we've transferred control of the family business to your brother. As if I wasn't the only reason the employees had been paid at all. Followed by Mom's ever-sweet reply. He actually earned it. You just got lucky. That hit harder than I expected. I remember just staring at my screen for a second, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. I hadn't responded. I didn't need to. I already knew what I was going to do. I waited until that night, logged into the banking app, and disabled the funding account, the one tied to payroll, the one they never bothered to ask how it worked or who it came from. Just shut it off, like flipping a switch. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't threaten, didn't make a scene. I just stopped. 2 days later, my phone lit up at 3:41 a.m. Tyler. I almost ignored it. But something about the timing made me answer, just to hear the panic. He didn't even say hello. None of us got paid, he barked. The stores are freaking out. The bank says the transfer bounced. What did you do? I let the silence hang for a moment, then calmly replied, good luck earning it now, and hung up. Then I flipped my phone to airplane mode and went back to sleep. The next day, I started planning step 2. See, what they never bothered to ask during those 6 months was how I'd been sending the money. They just assumed I was wiring cash from my personal account, like some ATM with no questions asked. What they didn't realize is I'd set up a temporary shell company, one that technically owned the payroll processor. Legally, it had oversight, and it had records, all the records, including the ones that showed Tyler had been siphoning off bonuses to himself and a guy named Grant, the same friend who was supposedly their new marketing lead. There was no marketing, just a fake invoice system and an expense account they used for travel, dinners, and even a weekend getaway to Palm Springs. I had receipts, screenshots, and the kicker? I'd also been working with an old friend from college who specialized in forensic accounting, just in case things got messy. And they were about to get very messy. Because while Tyler was busy panicking over payroll, Mom and Dad were about to wake up to an email from the payroll company's compliance officer, a title I'd given to my friend Lauren, with a request for clarification on several inconsistent line items. That email was already in their inbox. But that wasn't even the best part. Because I wasn't just going to pull the plug on payroll. I was going to show them exactly who had been holding the damn plug the whole time, and what it cost when they decided I didn't earn it. And right as I was drafting a follow-up email to the real store managers, the ones who'd actually been working hard through this chaos, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mom. 5 missed calls. One message. "Whatever you're doing, stop. This isn't fair to your father." I didn't reply, because she was right about one thing. It wasn't going to be fair. It was going to be accurate. And that was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was anxious, the opposite actually. I was more awake, more alive than I'd felt in years. Like something dormant had finally snapped open. Every moment they called me lucky, they chipped away at something I didn't even know was crumbling until it collapsed. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. The next morning, I took a train down to Portland. I didn't warn them. I didn't announce my arrival. I didn't need to. The fallout had already started. On the way, I fired off 2 emails. One to the payroll vendor, requesting that they officially suspend all outgoing funds pending a fraud investigation, and another to a local business journalist I'd been quietly in contact with for weeks. She'd been sniffing around for a story on mid-sized businesses with internal embezzlement problems. I told her to meet me at a diner on 4th, noon. When I arrived at the flagship store, the one downtown my grandfather built himself, I found Tyler pacing in the parking lot, looking like a man whose world was unraveling. His hair was a mess, shirt half untucked, and when he saw me step out of the Uber, he practically ran over. "You can't just cut us off," he hissed. "You don't understand what you've done." I looked him in the eye and said, "You're right. I didn't cut you off. I stopped enabling theft. Big difference." His face turned red. "I didn't steal anything." "No? Then I'm sure the IRS will find your Palm Springs invoices very educational." I brushed past him before he could respond, pushed open the doors, and walked straight into the back office where Dad was yelling into the phone. I didn't wait for him to hang up. "Good morning," I said, calm and even. He blinked, stunned. You're here." "I am. And you're not getting another dollar." He started sputtering something about family, legacy, how we needed to unite in times like this, but I held up a hand. "You sent a group text," I said. "Told me I was out. Remember that." He went silent. "I was funding your business. Quietly. Without credit. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, that would mean something to you. That I'd earn a place, finally. But you were never looking for help. Just a wallet. Son, come on. I'm not your son when there's money involved. I'm just the guy who got lucky." "Isn't that what Mom said?" Dad shifted in his seat, trying to muster some authority. "So what? This is revenge. You want us to fail." I leaned down across his desk, leveled my voice, and said, "You already failed. I just stopped hiding it for you." The silence in that room was thick. The kind of silence you only get when someone's entire illusion is cracked open and they don't know where to look. I turned and walked out. Tyler tried to block the door again, but I didn't stop. I didn't say another word. That was when step 3 kicked in. At exactly 12:03 p.m., I met the journalist, Grace, at the diner. I handed her everything. The records, the payments, the shell company trail, the fake invoices. It wasn't just Tyler who was implicated. It was Dad too, approving transactions he never should have, shifting blame onto others, pushing loyal employees out while protecting his son. Grace's eyes were wide by the time I was done. "I'll have this out by Monday," she said. "If this goes viral, they're finished." I nodded. "That's the idea." She hesitated, then asked, "Aren't you worried what happens next?" I stirred my coffee and replied. They took my silence as permission. They're about to learn what it means when I speak. By the time I got back to my hotel that night, my phone had 27 missed calls, 4 voicemails from Mom, and a slew of texts from numbers I didn't even recognize. Store managers, employees, even one from Grant. "We can talk about this. Don't go nuclear, man." Too late. Step 4 was already underway. I opened my laptop and sent a secure file to a law firm I'd kept on retainer. Not a lawsuit. Not yet. Just the initial trigger, a petition for audit and dissolution of the board that ran the family trust which technically owned the business. A board that included me. 1/3. Turns out, when Grandpa set things up, he believed in balance. 3 votes. Dad, Uncle Henry, and me. Henry had retired and gone hands-off years ago, but he still held voting power. And after hearing everything, after I flew out to Arizona to show him what Tyler had done, He agreed to co-sign the motion. One more vote, and the company could be restructured. The board dissolved. Assets frozen. Control pulled from Dad and Tyler permanently. And that final vote? I was saving that for later. Because by Sunday, they were going to learn something new. Something important. Something I never needed to shout. You don't get to steal my loyalty, spit on my support, and pretend I was never part of this. Not without consequences. And I still hadn't told them about step 5. But that's when things really took a turn. Because just when I thought I was in control, someone else made a move I didn't see coming. And everything changed again. I was eating a late dinner in my hotel room when the call came. Not a number I recognized, but one I felt in my gut before I even answered. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Ryan, a soft voice said when I picked up. It was Kimberly, my cousin. Uncle Henry's daughter. We hadn't spoken in years. Not since she moved to New Mexico with her mom after the divorce. She was the one cousin who never quite fit into the family mold either, but for different reasons. Creative, empathetic, a little too outspoken for the tight-lipped, traditionalist world our parents built. We used to talk when we were kids, hide out in the attic during family dinners, and make fun of all the fake smiles downstairs. But we weren't kids anymore. Kim? Wow. It's been. I know. She cut in, voice tense. Listen, I just got off the phone with Dad. He told me everything. The audit. The vote. What Tyler's been doing. I stayed quiet. Then she said something that stopped me cold. He's having second thoughts. My fingers froze around my fork. What do you mean, second thoughts? He already signed the motion. He did. But Mom called him tonight. So did your dad. They're pressuring him. Hard. Saying the family's falling apart because of you. That you're trying to destroy Grandpa's legacy. That you're turning the board into a weapon. I stood up, pacing now, pulse quickening. That's not true, and Henry knows that. He saw the records. He saw what you wanted him to see, she said, and I heard it. Not accusation, but warning. That's what they're saying. That you spun this. That you're trying to wrestle control for profit. I couldn't believe it. After everything. Tyler stole from his own staff? I said, my voice sharp now. He used Payroll as a piggy bank. Dad knew and said nothing. I saved them from going under. And I did it quietly. If I wanted power, I would have gone public months ago. I know, Kim said gently. I believe you. But they're using Henry's guilt against him. He's scared. He thinks if he sides with you and this all blows up, he'll be remembered as the one who broke the family. He won't have to worry about that. I muttered. Because if Tyler stays in control, there won't be a family business left to break. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then she said, what if you let me talk to him? I blinked. You think he'll listen to you? He might. I'm not in the business. I'm not asking for anything. But he trusts me. And he knows I don't play favorites. If I show him what you have, all of it, and explain it the way you explained it to me just now, maybe it lands different. It was risky. It meant opening up more files, more sensitive records. But the truth was, I didn't have another option. The vote was everything. Without it, I had no leverage. All right, I said. I'll send you everything. But Kim, if he flips now, and they stay in power, they won't stop. They'll come after me next. I know, she said, which is why we can't let them. I hung up and started uploading files. Screenshots, timelines, legal memos, even a recording I'd made of my last meeting with Tyler in which he casually admitted to redirecting funds for leadership incentives. I never thought I'd have to use it, but suddenly it felt like the last bullet in a crumbling arsenal. I didn't sleep that night either. By morning, I had a text from Kimberly. We talked. It took 3 hours, but I think he's back on your side. He wants to meet, just the two of you. Said to come by the cabin. Tonight. Uncle Henry's cabin. The one up by the river. Remote. Quiet. It was where Grandpa used to take us as kids to fish, chop wood, pretend like the world was simple. Now it was going to be the place where everything might either come together or collapse completely. I packed my things and left the hotel without checking out. When I pulled up to the cabin that evening, the sky was just starting to turn. That deep purple before sunset that always makes you feel like something's about to happen. I could see Henry's truck parked out front. No sign of anyone else. I took a breath, stepped out, and knocked once before letting myself in. He was already sitting at the old oak table, a mug of coffee in one hand, the audit papers spread out in front of him. His face was unreadable. He didn't say hello. Instead, he nodded at the chair across from him and said, "Tell me why I shouldn't believe them." And that's when I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. because the truth wasn't enough. Now, I had to fight for it. I sat down across from Uncle Henry and looked him in the eye. His gaze was tired, not angry, just worn down, like someone who'd been balancing on a wire for too long and felt every gust of wind. There was no malice in him, and that somehow made it harder. If he'd come at me with fire and accusations, I could have fought back. But this was quiet heartbreak, guilt, confusion, fear. You want the truth? I said softly. I didn't come here to destroy anything. I came because I was already watching it fall apart, and I didn't want to stand by and pretend it wasn't happening. Henry said nothing, just stared at the steam curling from his mug. For 6 months, I funded the payroll. Me. Not Dad. Not Tyler, me. Because employees weren't getting paid on time. Some were quitting. Some were asking if the company was going under. And I figured maybe if I stepped in, quietly, I could buy them time to fix it. To figure it out. And they didn't, Henry said quietly. They didn't even try, I said. Tyler used it as a cushion. Took fake bonuses. Let Grant draw a salary for a job he didn't do. And Dad approved it because he didn't want to admit his golden son was incompetent. Or maybe because he didn't want to look weak. Henry looked down, then up again. They say you set them up. That you created the shell company to manipulate the books. I created the shell company to protect the payroll, I said. Because if I wired money directly, I'd have no visibility. I didn't want them using my money for bonuses or debt payments. I wanted every dollar going to the employees. Only to the employees. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. Everything is in here. Account numbers. Transaction logs. Email threads. Grant used the company credit card to book a golf resort the same week they told their staff there would be temporary delays in payments. They were lying, Henry. And they didn't care. He opened the folder, thumbed through a few pages, and paused on one. I saw it. March 12th. For $1,800 to a luxury hotel. Labeled as a staff development conference. He looked up. That's when I lost sleep, I said. I was giving them everything. Quietly. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't even ask to be included. I just hoped that maybe, finally, they'd see me as more than just the one who left. Henry exhaled slowly. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. Why now? Why not just keep paying if it helped? I leaned back, feeling the knot in my chest return. Because they sent a group text, I said bitterly. A group text, Henry. They removed me from the business and handed it to Tyler. Said I didn't earn it. That I got lucky. After everything. Henry nodded slowly, eyes heavy. They told you that you weren't family, he said. I nodded. Exactly. We sat there in silence for a long time. The only sound the creak of the wood stove in the corner. Outside, the last of the daylight was slipping away, casting long shadows across the cabin floor. Then Henry stood up, walked to the small shelf in the corner, and pulled out an old binder. One I hadn't seen in decades. It was Grandpa's. The original trust documents. Business filings. Board structure. The original mission statements. The handwritten ones, in Grandpa's scrawled cursive. He opened the binder, flipped through, and read aloud. The business stays in the family, but no single son is greater than the work it takes to keep it going. Integrity above loyalty. Accountability above pride. He closed the book and looked at me. I forgot that part, he said. They made it about blood. But your grandfather didn't build this with blood. He built it with sweat. Discipline. Earned responsibility. He sat back down. I vote yes, he said. Dissolve the current board. Restructure the leadership. Launch the audit. And we put it all on record. The weight in my chest shifted. Not gone, but moved. I felt it differently now. Not pressure. Responsibility. You're sure? I asked. Henry gave a small, sad smile. I think we both know there's no going back to the way things were. But maybe we can still build something better from the pieces. That night, we filed the vote. It was official. The board dissolved. New temporary leadership appointed, myself and 2 third-party business advisors. The audit was launched within 24 hours. Payroll resumed, this time under direct supervision. Tyler was suspended pending investigation. Grant's contract was terminated outright. Dad didn't call me. Neither did Mom. But I got an email from Tyler. Just one line. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. Instead, I met with the managers, the ones who'd stayed through the chaos. I told them the truth. Not just about the theft, but about the way I'd funded them, why I hadn't said anything sooner, and what the plan was now. One of them, A woman named Carol, who'd been there since the 90s, started crying. "Thank you," she whispered. "No one's ever fought for us like that." That meant more to me than any title ever could. As the weeks passed, the audit uncovered even more. Over $60,000 in misused funds. Grant and Tyler had created dummy vendor accounts to siphon payments. Dad had ignored repeated warnings from accounting staff. HR files showed at least 4 employees left due to unethical financial behavior. It was worse than I thought. When we called the shareholders, mostly extended family, older cousins, and a couple of passive investors, the reaction was mixed. Some were stunned. Others said they'd suspected something was off. But no one defended Tyler or Dad once the evidence was presented. Silence replaced loyalty. Then came the final meeting. We held it in the main conference room of the Portland flagship store. Chairs arranged in a circle. Projector up. Advisors ready. The entire board, new and old, was present. Dad showed up late. Walked in like nothing had happened. Sat down without acknowledging me. Tyler didn't come at all. I stood up, cleared my throat, and addressed the room. For years, this business ran on the idea that bloodlines were enough. That if you were born into it, you deserved it. That ends now. I laid out the new structure. New financial oversight. Transparent payroll. Profit sharing for long-term staff. Monthly audits. A rotating leadership committee to avoid concentrated power. Every voice would matter, but every voice would also be accountable. When I finished, I looked directly at Dad. "You wanted me to be quiet, to stay grateful for being allowed to watch. But I built something too. And when you needed it, I gave it freely. You just didn't like that the help came from someone you didn't respect." He didn't respond. He just stared at the table. As people stood and applauded, some clapping softly, some with tears in their eyes, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Not because I'd won. Not because I'd humiliated them. But because I'd finally stopped chasing approval that was never going to come. A week later, I got a letter from my mom. Handwritten. "You may think you did the right thing, but you've broken this family. You've destroyed your father. I hope it was worth it." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because it was worth it. Not out of spite. Not out of revenge. But because every dollar I'd given was a piece of me. A chance to be part of something I loved, even when it didn't love me back. And now? Now, that love was going somewhere it belonged. Back into the hands of people who earned it. And finally, I wasn't the outsider anymore. I wasn't the wallet. I wasn't the ghost at the family table. I was the man who saved it. Even if I had to burn it down first.